once again, it is that time as we transition into a new anime season. As always, the fall anime lineup delivered and in many cases exceeded expectations. From the debuts of Frieren Undead Unluck to the hit of Shangri-La Frontier, the overachievement by Jujutsu Kaisen and Scott Pilgrim, and plenty of other returning series continuing their consistency, there was a lot to watch this time around. For once, I felt a bit overwhelmed keeping up with everything, but that challenge is exactly why I love the fall. Looking ahead, we got some fresh debuts, a long-awaited returning series that I didn't think I'd ever see again, and more continuing their stories heading into new seasons across the board. As always, it's my job to give you some recommendations and point you in the right direction, so without further ado, here are my choices for what I believe you should be watching for Winter of Anime 2024. So starting right off the dome, we have one of the long-awaited webtoon series finally getting its adaptation for Solo Leveling. For years, I have heard about Solo Leveling along the likes of Tower of God and God of High School. From what I can gather, we got classes, we got monsters, we got dungeons, an association of some kind for those who partake in the battle, and a main character that's gonna go from 0 to 100. I believe this is going to be the OP main character done right situation, but as I have not read, I won't go off and assume anything just yet. This series will definitely be a lot of action though, so I have no doubt that A1 Pictures will plan to deliver. With Tower of God getting their official Season 2 release date as well, I heavily advise keeping an eye on this one as webtoons are slowly but surely making their way. Next up, returning to continue the classroom beef, we have Classroom of the Elite Season 3. Last season, we had the beatdown of the century with Ayana Koji showing just how much of that dog is truly in him. At the end, we saw the upcoming confrontation with him and Sake Yanagi, and I cannot wait to see these two confront each other within the parameters of the school's tests. As always, it's more Classroom of the Elite, but if you've been seated thus far, then you know what time it is come January. Following up with continuations, we're coming right on back to Mashal Season 2. Now I know that the humor of Mashal is not for everyone, but Season 1 content-wise had a strong adaptation, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down either. I will vouch that as somebody who was a reader, the upcoming conflict, if adapted all the way, is a huge peak for the series. I highly recommend sticking around for this core if you are somebody who isn't feeling the anime that much, and for those who are, you're absolutely going to love it. Now this next anime is one of the few series that I never thought would return, but we are finally back with Blue Exorcist, Shimane, and Illuminati Saga. Season 2 wrapped up back in 2017, and any news around the series went pretty much dark. I don't know who made the call to reignite the fire for production, but it is so good to see one of the few series that played a huge part for me in this medium continue its story. The studio animating the series this time around is Studio Bone, who is notably known for 2015's Ushio Tora. The main trailer looks good, and quite frankly, this adaptation might have a lot more cool things in store for us than we may realize. Everybody knows about Blue Exorcist, so I have a feeling that this will definitely be a heavily talked about show come next season, and if you haven't started it yet, take this moment to be your sign to binge. Now, as for the show that will absolutely be the must-watch anime of the season comes Dungeon Meshy by Studio Trigger. Look, we all know how this goes. Anything that tends to be done by Trigger tends to be one for the books, and this time, Trigger is adapting source material with a fantasy world where you gotta chef it up in the dungeon. Just looking at the trailer, this anime looks a lot of fun, and just like Frieren last season, you don't want to miss this one. Everybody's eyes are on it, and I have a feeling that this is going to over-deliver in more ways than one. Next up, sprinkling a little bit of romance in this season, we have A Sign of Affection. This series deals with a romance involving a young college girl who is deaf, who slowly begins to gain feelings for her upperclassmen after interacting with her normally despite her deafness. I can imagine this may appeal to the silent voice crowd, and overall sounds like a really sweet series. Representation of disabilities is very important, and I hope to be able to follow up this series with the message that love is not halted even by those barriers. I've heard huge excitement for this one online as well, so romance fans, please keep your eye out for this one. Following up with another fantasy series comes The Witch and the Beast. This series I'm completely blind on, but I've only heard good things about the source material. This is going to be a dark fantasy given its premise of revenge against an evil witch, and will most likely be the dark horse of next season. All the more reason to keep it on your radar and check it out if you can. Next up, we have the new project coming from Studio Bones with Metallic Rogue. This is a fresh project from Bones that isn't MHA, Mob Psycho, or Bungo Stray Dogs, and it looks really good. We got the cool woman character designs, a sci-fi setting, humanoid mechs, and quite frankly, that's all I need to hear. I'm curious to see if this will continue the best girls wonder duo streak coming off of shows like Lycoris Recoil and Witch from Mercury. Bones tends to not disappoint, so I definitely recommend keeping an eye on this one in the ballpark of Dungeon Meshy. As for the final new show that I'll be recommending this season comes Sengoku Yoko. This is an upcoming anime by Studio White Fox that will also be one of the first 3 core anime we have gotten in a long time. Gonna be around for quite a while, and from what I heard, the manga is split between part 1 in part 2. In short, this should be a full adaptation of the source material. It's been a minute since White Fox has done a heavy action series, and the studio overall has a nice track record from Gatana Gatari to Re:Zero. This could end up being the surprising hit of the season, so feel free to keep up with it. The final two choices are both season 2 continuations, with Urusei Yatsura 2022 second season and The Fire Hunter season 2. If you are a fan of either of these, then be on the lookout for their returns come January. With that brings my list to an end. Overall, we have a much more condensed lineup to kick off the new year, but it's full of good quality. If anything, I really expect Dungeon Meshy and Blue Exorcist to spearhead the season, but as we all know, anything can happen amongst a season of anime. Of course, make sure to let me know what you are planning to watch for the upcoming winter season in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, stay warm out there, and I will catch you all in the final video of 2023.